Alrighty tubes, we're working on the clear head and we're trying to get it to run real slow on propane. So Mike brought us a bunch of fittings here, a bucket full of fittings and another regulator.
Yeah, this is a secondary regulator. It'll bring about 10 pounds of gas, propane or natural gas, down to between, according to the label here, between 9 and 13 inches of water column going out. I use this on the Bessemer, if anybody's seen that engine that I have. When I was trying to get that to run, this is one of the regulators I was using, but it turns out it wouldn't put out enough volume. So
you keep mentioning water pressure and stuff like that, and I noticed you had this water gauge here, right? You want to explain that?
Yeah.
Your phone's ringing. Let me answer your phone, then we'll get back to this.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that. Mike had to answer a business call there. He's always on call. But anyway, you explain this gauge here.
Well, this gauge measures pressure in inches of water or ounces per square inch. I've got two of these that I keep on my truck working in the generator field on natural gas generators. You need to be able to measure pressures in inches of water column. Now, somebody put a comment in your last video, I forget what they said, that 1 pound, 1 psi is equal to 27.5 or so inches of water, and you can see just by blowing in the hose here, I can peg this gauge. So and it's a very low pressure. But most generators they don't accept high pressure. Like what the natural gas in your house may be regulated to, say, somewhere between 7 and 10 inches of water. Most generators typically will require between 7 and 14 inches of water. Some as low as 3 inches, but usually between 10 and 7. The key is volume. The pressure is low, but you've got to have enough volume of flow to feed that generator. So, you encounter that with working with regulators and demand regulators on generator sets. You'll have, say, whatever your 10 inches of pressure, but when you start the unit, or when there's a draw, or when there's a draw of gas, you'll see that pressure drop, and that indicates that you don't have enough volume to maintain that pressure in the pipe. So, but basically, we're going to try to kind of go. We were trying to feed this engine with pretty much raw, unrefined pressure from the tank, just with this little regulator. And this thing may just, may not work correctly. But I'm going to take the output of this regulator, which I'm going to try to set to about 10 pounds, and feed it into that regulator, this one here, which should bring that 10 pounds. We'll try, maybe 7 or 8 inches of water. It says 9 to 13, but I've had it lower than that, and it works fine, lower, between 5 and 7 inches. And we'll put an accumulator on the output of this regulator to dampen that pulsation that I mentioned in the last video. And we'll see if we can't get it to run a little bit more reliably. And now we've got, you built the new, air inlet needle. So maybe we'll be able to regulate the air a little more accurately. And in combination with that air regulation and the more controlled fuel regulation, we may be able to get the engine to run a lot better. Now, before anybody says it, I realize that they do make all-in-one regulators, primary and secondary regulators in a single package that's actually smaller than this, but I don't have one of those. So we're gonna see how it does.
We're gonna see if it works first, right?
And then
maybe somebody can send us one, or we'll buy one, right?
Yeah, they're not that expensive, so it's just all about working with what we have now.
Right.
And really, to get it to run well, I don't know if we addressed this in the last video, but we are going to remove the original ignition from this engine, and we're going to make it run on a buzz coil, I think. But we're going to be able to vary the ignition timing to try to get I don't know how to describe it, but just to get the best, the most smooth operation out of the engine at low RPM. You know, by either advancing or retarding the timing, we may be able to get it in that little sweet spot where it just putts right along, especially with that big flywheel we're going to put on it.
Right.
So, yeah, but that's pretty much the reason I brought the gauge, so we can see what we're actually feeding into the engine and how the pressure responds while the engine's running. I don't know if we're not going to be able to get enough volume through this hose. We should be able to for this little engine. And yeah, you know, an analog gauge like that is always the best in my opinion to see fluctuation and things like that. They make digital versions of that, but I don't believe in those. So, all right, I think I said enough.
You did, Mike. You confused the hell out of me, so I don't know what you did everybody else. So, all right, let's start bolting some of this stuff up.
Okay, Dad.
All right. What's it look like, Mike?
Well, I want to see where you see the needle on this gauge slowly rising.
Right.
I want to see where it stops, because it's got to stop below 10. If it goes any higher than 10, it's going to damage this regulator, which you don't want to do.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it will, because when we were coming straight out of the bottle last time, it wasn't going.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't going because we didn't have any restriction. I've got this needle valve closed, so there's no gas flowing. Remember, this regulator wasn't working correctly, or it didn't seem to be working correctly, because it should reach a certain pressure and stop.
Mm-hmm. It's still going. It's going slowly, but it's going.
Right. But it crept up on us last time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can cut it back a little bit, but it kind of reaches that point where it doesn't work very well. Because if I release the pressure now, it's probably going to drop. Yeah, it just drops like a stone.
Right.
You know, you can see we've got a little over 10 inches of water with, now that's with the flow here. Now as I close that valve, it only goes up to what?
7. Or I'm looking at the wrong, I'm looking at the wrong one.
The outside, so it's like about 11, 12 and a half or so inches. And that should stay. That's going to stay even though this is going up because this is a good regulator.
Yeah, it's steady.
Yeah.
And you want to try and get that down to 10?
No, I'm not worried about that right now. I want to make sure that this doesn't go above 10. So with this valve closed, I want to make sure it doesn't go above 10. Let me see if I can tighten that lock nut. I'll have to see where it holds and levels off at. Maybe a longer piece of hose.
Okay.
That'll be alright.
We get plenty of that. All right, we're gonna wait for this to climb, and then we're gonna get Mike some hose.
Alright.
All right, we got everything hooked up here. We got our clear line. We put a longer line there. I think one of my subscribers, Zig gassed up, mentioned something about a longer line. We did put a longer line on, but we're just going to see if that's going to help the pulsating a little bit. That was a great suggestion, but looks like Dr. Frankenstein's lab here, Mike, with all this stuff hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before anybody says anything about our propane, we got that secured, so it ain't going anywhere. All right, we're going to try and start this up and see what happens.
Yeah, somebody made this needle valve. I don't know who, but they didn't put a mark on the screw, so you know where it's turned.
But that's why it's turned so you can see the back side. You know exactly what's going out. But I know what you're saying. You got to know if it's a quarter turn or half turn.
Right.
You got to take the housing off if you want to do that.
Oh man.
It's only 2 bolts. One slides. All right, let me help Mike out. Mike's having trouble.
All right.
Mike's not used to this low tech stuff. He's used to the high tech.
Oh man.
All right. Goes to 1,000, drops down to about 6. Yeah, a heavier flywheel will be better. We just put a flywheel on here. We don't have one that'll fit that other than this little small one. Gave it a little mass. We also put a spacer in there, and that lowered the compression a little bit. But I think it's the best we're going to be able to do with this thing. Almost sounds like a hit and miss, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange. Give a shot of the gauge there.
Oh, this gauge here?
Yeah, see, as the engine's running, I still feel the pulsating in the line, but it's not really affecting the regulator. Or else, because we would see that needle bounce around.
Right.
Because it's not bouncing around.
That's steady as it goes.
I could try to drop it down a little bit more. I can't quite decide if it needs more or less air. Every once in a while, when it drops down, I feel a little backfire in the line. You ever check the valve clearances on this? You lapped the valve, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you check the clearances afterward?
Yeah.
Ah.
Hey, you know what? Maybe check them again.
Yeah. Yeah, check the valve clearances.
Shut her down. Well, at least it ran by itself.
Yeah.
It just kept chugging along. Alright. We're going to work on it. We're going to try to get it run a little steadier.
Alright.
You know, once you put the new timing system in there, and be able to adjust it.
That will help immensely. That coupled with the even larger wheel will smooth out those power pulses. Because we're not gonna be able to get it to hit every time. I mean, for all we know, did you check? Did the points look okay in this thing?
Yeah, they were pitted, but they were decent.
Yeah, I mean, it ran good on gasoline. So you know what? We could also shrink that spark plug gap a little bit. That would help it run a little bit better because propane's harder to ignite than gasoline. You need a smaller spark plug gap, which we didn't do. So, all right, we got more things to do.
All right, well let's have something to eat and then we'll get back to that.
Good plan.
Try restricting the exhaust a little, Mike. See what that does. Makes it quiet. Yeah. Nice and quiet now. Seems to be running about the same though.
Yeah.
Huh.
You know, we'd have to put another valve, or maybe move this valve right up on the engine.
I think we might have to settle for like a steady 8. Because if we go any lower than 8, it's gonna stall. You know, it's gotta do something.
Yeah.
The bigger flywheel is gonna help a lot, but for now, like I said, this here is just a temporary flywheel to give it a little bit of mass. What'd you do there, Mike? I seen you move something.
Yeah, well, I took our little needle valve off of the
Up here.
off of the regulator, and I put it onto the right up close to the engine itself.
That give you a little better control.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Now there's absolutely no pulsation in the line, and what I think was happening was because the line could contract.
Right.
When the engine would go on its intake stroke, it would actually suck more propane than I would want because the line was contracting slightly and there's that much more volume of propane that the engine could actually take in. Now here it's kind of like backfiring there. I'm not quite sure why it's doing that. That we might be able to eliminate with the timing.
Right.
But I think without being able to adjust the timing, this is about as good as it's going to be.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's like between 800. I say the average is 800.
I think so too.
With when it drops because it backfires to when it accelerates up, it's about 1,000.
Let me get the thermometer here and see what it does.
Why is it blinking?
Probably something I touched.
Oh man.
Probably set it something.
Is that the one you dropped?
No. So that's still pretty cold on it.
Yeah.
And the exhaust pipe.
Yeah, I think once we get the timing adjustable, we'll be able to start it at, say, top dead center and retard it to get each power stroke, later in the cycle. Maybe get each power stroke to make a little bit less power, a little bit less effort. That might smooth it out a bit.
Alright. Well, I'm going to close the video, Mike, because I'm down to about a minute.
Okay.
And we
What's our
accomplished.
gas pressure? We're running at what? 6.5 inches of water right now.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what's feeding the needle valve. And that's only cracked that needle valve. So. All right.
Yeah, I can live with that, Mike. Alright, say goodbye to your buddies.
See you later.
Alright, tubes. Enough for this video.